Hello, my friends. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy. Glad to see you on this glorious Thursday of, what's the date today? Excuse me, April 26th. I promise you, I warmed up my voice and I just came off another Facebook Live, so I'm not sure why I'm a little bit froggy. But before I get into the topic, which is what are you teaching your dog that may be causing your dog's bad behavior, which is a really important topic that we need to make sure and always talk about. We bring it up in our obedience classes and our one-on-one training. It's a super important topic and it needs to be brought up a lot because there are so many things that we can be teaching our dog that really can be causing our bad behavior. But I want to remind you, if you have not seen it yet, had a chance to sign up, we have an early bird opportunity for any of you that are interested in dogs. I don't care if you're a veterinarian, a groomer, a dog walker, a dog trainer. We have a 2-day human dog transformation system conference planned, a seminar, I guess is a better word for it, June 2nd and 3rd, 2018. And on the 1st, which is the Friday before, we'll have a little registration, maybe a little bit mixer. Right now, the Chase Hotel in Brea is our host hotel. The only reason I say for right now is because there's some unknown stuff happening with some type of Democratic convention. Just, they don't need to have that convention there. Something they're doing there. And so they were still not sure what time they're going to do their thing, which doesn't allow us to make sure that our time is going to fit into where we need to be. So anyway, that's the only thing we're waiting for is just confirmation that we will be having it there. But again, don't forget to look for this ad, I guess it is. I guess that's the best way to put it, on our Facebook page. Just scroll down and you'll see it. And then there's the URL is the number 2 dayhdt.com. The number 2 dayhdt.com. Go to that link, that URL, and then just sign up right there and use this code HDT EB1/2 for a half. All right. So make sure and put that in there. Hey, Gina. Yeah, all you need to do is go up to the upper right-hand corner, just where comment section, and just change it to your name if you want it to go there. It's because you're an admin on Falco Canine Academy. All right. So secondly, before I get into the topic, is that I want to make sure that those of you that are HDT trainers that are in our private group and you're in there beginning to learn the process of learning some fabulous stuff. We've already had an event where some of the people in our HDT system were able to come. They were invited for our 3 days bed bug detection dog a platform. We had a couple of the trainers come one of the days and hang out with us all day long as we were training bed bug detection dogs. It was fantastic to see them there. And then we have a couple other things, but today, just a minute ago, I did a Facebook Live and showed a video that I want you guys to watch. And I want you to, it's a video that I can't share outside the group. I want you to watch that video. I want you to watch what's going on between the handler and his dog, and then write about it in your journal. And then we're going to discuss it this Sunday and go over some of the things which you may or may not see in there, and some things that I took from the video. And we're going to be teaching you how to look at a situation between a dog and their handler and analyze it, and then come up with a solution based on what you're seeing. And this video is a perfect example of looking at something that either is perfect or not. I'm not going to tell you which way, but make sure those of you that are in the HDT system and signed up and watch that video. It is a fantastic video. It is unfortunately a video that I cannot share outside the group. And so you're going to want to make sure and watch that video. Okay. So let's get to our topic. What you may teaching your dog may be causing some of the bad behavior. And I'm going to give you a couple stories that illustrate this fact. And one of them is law enforcement. I always like to do law enforcement stuff. Why? Because I did that for 21 years, and it's probably the place where I learned most of what I know about how handlers mess up their dogs. All right. So in a competition, I believe I was in Bakersfield. It was either Bakersfield or Tucson, Arizona. I can't remember which one. But there's it was Arizona, now that I remember in the scenario. And what it is you're on this particular scenario, you're supposed to come up, bring your dog to, there's 2 cones and a line, and you bring your dog in between the 2 cones and in the line, and there's 2 blinds where a decoy can be hiding behind one of the blinds, or actually there could be 2, and there is, right? One's armed with a gun and one's not. And so essentially what happens is, one suspect comes out and he starts jogging. You're holding on to your dog, stop or I'll send the dog. And when you say stop or I'll send the dog, that decoy stops and puts his hands up. Another decoy comes out and starts firing a gun at you. And strangely enough, you're sending the dog, which doesn't make any sense. But because why would you send a dog into a gunfight? But anyway, for the basis of this scenario, you're supposed to send the dog. I think at some point, maybe the guy fired 2 rounds, dropped the gun, and turned and ran. But anyway, you should be shooting the guy and killing them is what you should be doing. But anyway, and so the guy turns around and runs, and you're to send your dog. Well, this dog, I won't tell you which department. The dog is sent. The dog doesn't go. The dog turns and first grabs the cone on the right. And the dog's biting the cone and shaking his head. And the handler goes, "Phooey, no, phooey," and yelling at the dog, "Stop." And he grabs the dog's collar, and he can't get the dog to let go of the cone. So let me go ahead and turn this. Oh, that's some good training that Gina was doing the other day with Derek. We're going to go to... it wouldn't be the same if I didn't have something that I had to fix during a broadcast, right? It just would not be the same. We'll go back to this logo here. There we go. And so he can't get the dog off the cone. So he has to grab the dog by the testicles and gets the dog off the cone. And he throws that cone behind him. And he says, "Stop or I'll send the dog," because the guy was out there still kind of like jogging in place as he's trying to get the dog off the cone. And he sends the dog. And now the dog goes to the cone on the left and grabs the cone. And we're talking about a traffic cone, right? An orange traffic cone. The dog grabs the other traffic cone and bites it. And then he has to choke that dog off. And he's trying to send the dog, but the dog is now trying to get the cones that are now behind him because that's where he threw them. And he just finally, the judges say, "All right, we call the scenario." And the guy takes his dog. He's pissed off at his dog. I won't tell you what he was doing to the dog, but it wasn't, the dog didn't deserve what he was doing. Takes the dog back to his patrol car and throws the dog back in the police car. I knew the guy, but I can't say that I was friends with him. But I said, "Hey, once he calmed down because he was so upset, angry, more like it, yes, I just saw that. Gina was telling me that, it was playing in the background. Yeah, I caught that at the last minute. And he says, when he calms down, I said, "So what is it that," he goes, "I don't know. The dog just kept chasing the cones." I said, "Well, think about what it is you do with your dog." And he's like, this light bulb goes off over his head. And he says, now that I think about it, there's been a couple times, not a lot, but a couple times, which means probably a lot, that, at night, 3:00 in the morning, when he has nothing else to do, he thinks it's fun to take the cones, which he has in the trunk of his police car, these orange cones, and he plays fetch with the cone with his dog. So there's an example of what you could be teaching your dog that can actually cause bad behavior. The bad behavior is the dog didn't do his job, right? The dog's job was to go chase that bad guy and bite him and take him down. And so but unknowingly to him, he had trained his dog to have more desire for the red cones or the orange cones. And because they were the closest thing, right? He would have to run. It was something like 30 yards to catch the guy in the bite suit. And the dog's smart enough to think, why would I do that? These things right now that my handler has given me hundreds of times, or let's say 10, 15 times. And we have so much fun. My handler likes it. I like it. We play tug of war. You can't get it away from me. And we have to have this little battle. And how much fun are these cones? Way more fun than chasing down that decoy, apparently. And so that's what the handler had been teaching his dog unknowingly instead of training the dog properly. And so that is one very glowing example of how you can do that. You can teach your dog to do something that causes bad behavior. Another thing that we do, and we bring this up a lot, is that you got these little dogs, and maybe even sometimes big dogs. You got these little dogs that go to the front door when the UPS guy or whoever's delivering your Amazon package for that day comes to the door, and he's like, "Rawr!" He's snarling and growling and barking. And what do a lot of people do, especially with small dogs? They pick them up and they hold them and they pet them as they're opening the door, right? And so maybe in the beginning it starts off very, like bark, bark, right? And then it turns into bark, 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 and then it turns into bark, 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 bark. Because each time the dog does that, you've scooped the dog up and you pet the dog, telling him, "Wow, that is really cool what you do. I really like it when you bark at the front door," right? And then they call us and say, "I don't know why, it seems to be getting worse." And I tell him no. I pick him up and I tell him no. And I try to calm him down and tell him that it's okay. And I do all these things, and yet it's getting worse. I don't understand. The dog is so dumb, right? He doesn't listen to me. Well, that's because you're teaching your dog that's exactly what you want him to do, right? When the dog goes to the front door and starts barking, you pick him up and you coddle him and you stroke him and you say, what a fantastic, you're my savior. I love you. You are the best. You're protecting me from that mean man with the brown shorts and the brown shirt and the brown hat with the truck with the squeaky brakes that pulls up in front of our house almost on a daily basis. You are the best dog on the planet. And so you've been teaching the dog to do exactly what it is you hate and can't control him for. So we can look at all these things, and what I'm hoping that you'll do, and our trainers that are in the HDT system, is really begin to look at the big picture, right? The big picture of what's going on. You know, when it's just not simply that behavior, as Aldo talks about, and we'll talk to you more about in the system, is that, you know, what is the dog's emotions at the time of what's going on? What is the dog, you know, what is the energy that's happening? What is truly going on with that dog? Is it really about that thing, right? Is it really about, you know, is it really about the UPS guy? Or is it more about pleasing you, about protecting you, right? We want to look at these other things when in fact it's something entirely different than what we're focused on. And in fact, we probably are the ones that are training the dogs to do the very thing that we hate so much about our dogs, right? And so you got to look at the whole big picture, see what it is you're teaching your dog. I mean, the examples that we use about, you know, pulling back on the leash. You're walking down, your dog is kind of healing, maybe doing some other stuff. And the moment you see somebody in the horizon with another dog, what we tend to do, or what many people tend to do, is they begin to pull back their dog closer to them, and they wrap the leash around their hand, right? And they begin to hold the dog closer. What are you teaching the dog at that moment? What do you really think you're teaching the dog at that moment? That you're confident and secure? No. You're teaching your dog that you're starting to get a little bit concerned. You're a little bit worried. The dog looks around, scans around. What is it? It's new in the environment. It's that other person with that dog. That's causing my handler to get scared. I can tell by their body language. I can tell how they've slowed down suddenly. I can tell by the way that their voice has changed from, oh, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. Easy, right? They're suddenly now all this concern in their body language, in the way that they're holding the leash, in the way that they're talking, in the way that their gait has suddenly changed. All of that is teaching the dog that now the dog needs to protect the human being, because the human being is super concerned and super scared. And we're teaching the dog to do something, and that is to become aggressive because the handler's too weak, right? It's showing you as a follower, not as a leader. It's showing you to the dog as somebody that's afraid of either dogs or human beings. Now, the dog decides which one he's attaching it to. It could be men, right? If that's the prevailing thought in the dog at the time. If it's a skateboarder, you know, then it's the kid on a skateboard, right? The dog can pick and choose all these things. Pretty soon it can be all of those things, right? As you go on your walk and you begin to pull your dog in for different things, because now the dog's, you know, seeing like, are they afraid of this bicyclist too? Right? Yep, it's the bicyclist too, right? Is it, you know, all of a sudden this woman on a walker or a man on a walker, you know, pushing a little thing, and all of a sudden the dog goes, I wonder if they're scared of them too. Oh, yeah. And the dog, then they start realizing, okay, it's them too, right? And the dog begins to build a repertoire of things that it hates because you hate it, or you're afraid of it, or you're scared of it, or it reduces your confidence in your energy levels change, and all the things that are associated with your connection with your dog begins to change. And so the dog begins to act out. Emotions run down the leash. Yeah, we talk about that all the time, that you are communicating to your dog through your leash. That leash can actually be the worst thing for you, for many of you. There's some dogs that don't misbehave when they're off leash, right? All of a sudden we connect the dog to leash, and now you have all this, right? We call it leash aggression, right? And it's because of that thing, that communication. You know, the dog now, oh, we got that thing. Now I can hear what they're feeling, right? The dog can hear it, feel it, sense it even more clearly, because now it's that direct line. It's that telephone cable to the dog. It's the internet connection to your dog, telling him all there really needs to know about you is now running down that leash. So that's a great comment, Gina. Yeah. So that's such an important thing to talk about. So you see all these things, but whether you're the patrol officer who can't get his dog to get past the cones, or you're the person with the dog barking at the front door that you pick up and coddle, or the person walking down the street, all of those scenarios are what you're teaching your dog that's causing your dog bad behavior. All right, so we really need to begin to look at those things, and maybe you've not thought about it in that way. You're looking at it in a different aspect, but where it starts is communicating and educating the human being. Right? We got to start with the human being. That's why our tagline is human training for your dog, because much of it has nothing to do really about training the dog. Right? If we can begin to train the handler, the dog will just simply begin to follow. And there's little that we have to do. We don't have to get the pinch collars out. We don't have to get the electronic collar. We don't have to get the food and the clicker. None of that stuff. Now, we use some of those things to help the dog now kind of change its perspective, and it kind of helps speed things along. But if we, and in many cases, I can take a dog, Aldo can take a dog, Gina can take a dog, Derek can take a dog that's totally out of control, and we grab the leash, and suddenly you see everything change in the dog, right? And the people that own the dog look at us and go, "How did you do that? Why does he act differently around you? Why does that happen?" It really is because of the energy, our presence, the way that we communicate to the dog, and the way that we walk and talk and all that kind of stuff. The dog suddenly realizes, I'm in the hands of somebody who is a leader. And it doesn't make me a great person, Gina a great person, although she is, Aldo, he is too, but it doesn't make him a great person because of that. It's just simply because we don't have that same connection with the dog as you do. You kind of have a history. Maybe the dog has shown you that he can be aggressive. Maybe the dog has shown you that he can pull you on your face, because we've handled a lot of dogs over the years that we've been doing this, is that we don't have that same demeanor, that same energy. Our energy and our demeanor is that, dog, you need to pay attention to me, and you need to respond to what it is that I'm telling you, and that is to behave. You must sit, you must stay, you must heel, and you must down when I tell you. And that becomes very clear to the dog very quickly, almost from the moment that we take the leash. And so that's why it's when I get dogs and they come to me with pinch collars, that I take the pinch collar off right away, because it's totally unnecessary in relationship to where my experience with that, with dog training and handling dogs and that kind of stuff, where my communication with dog is completely different. My dog is, the dogs that I'm training are responding to me, right? And not to the tool that I'm using to correct him. All right. So really understanding that what it is that we are teaching the dog about us, about who we are, is really where it needs to start. And that can change everything. Some of the behaviors and things like that, there surely exist. Dogs have fear. Dogs have, baggage that they're carrying. They have dogs that have just never been socialized. Dogs that are, rescue dogs, shelter dogs that have had this whole other life experience that hasn't shown them how they are to behave with rules and boundaries. Surely those are things that we need to work on. But if we put them in the hands, or help the dog be in the hands of human beings that have a completely different demeanor that the dog can look to with respect and love and leadership, and just look at them in a way that makes them feel more comfortable, then you have an entirely different situation. And so understand what you're teaching your dog can be causing much of the bad behavior. And I really want you to really kind of look at this a little bit differently as you go through the weekend with your dog, and just kind of watch. Look how he looks at you. Does he ignore you? My son, now let me go back to kids really quick. So my son this morning, my oldest son, I have 3 sons. I know if I say my son, you have no idea which one I'm talking about, but my oldest son, who is a very smart young man, who's just, I love him more than life itself. And has a lot of great qualities. When I tell him to do something, he does it in most cases. And when like this morning, I said, I need you to wash the dishes, make the bed, and do something else. I forget what it was. And bam, 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 he gets them done. But there was a moment this morning that I forget what it was now that I told him to do. It was probably turn off the PS4 or something like that. I'm trying to think exactly what it was. But it wasn't about the thing, right? Again, I got to look at what it was, the behavior. It was the not acknowledging me when I was speaking, right? Is my concern. That when I speak, just as I want from the dogs, I want attention, right? And I teach my kids that if I'm speaking to you, you need to listen. And that this is not a dictatorship. This is how we live, right? This is their responsibility is to pay attention to me, because I could be speaking to you about something that is endangering your life. I could be speaking to you about something that can make your life fantastic. I can be speaking to you and just merely need you to do something for the family, like clean the kitchen. Right. That is, these things are all, they have to understand are important. And so when I say Kelly, which is my son's name, when I say Kelly, I want him to go, yes, Dad. Right. I don't want to say Kelly and then him continue doing whatever he was doing. And then I really don't want it to happen a second time. Like I can sometimes see the first one, right? Even with a dog, I could sometimes see the first one because they're totally engrossed in what they're doing. But the brain should start to engage. If you train the brain to listen to those things that are important, those things that aren't important will become less important. All right. It really is true, right? If I teach the kids that when I'm around, when they know that they feel my presence, they know that I'm in the room, that they have to have one ear on what it is I'm saying, you can teach them that. I promise you. I know many parents that have not taught their children that. I know many people that have not trained their dog that, right? And so you have to have that kind of presence with your kids, so that when I say Kelly the second time, I expect at that point for him to say, yes, Dad, right? I can even live with keeping your eyes on whatever he's doing. If he's playing Fortnite, that he can be looking at Fortnite and say, yes, Dad, because maybe he's getting ready to kill somebody, or he's getting ready to get killed. I can kind of accept that, and I know the parameters, but I would at least want acknowledgement. And on the second Kelly, I did not get acknowledgement. And immediately, just as you should with your dog, I said, turn it off. Right? And that was it. Right? It was done for the rest of the morning, which can be devastating to a child, especially a boy who's playing Fortnite, right? And that's why I'm thinking it was Fortnite. It was whatever it was something like that. If it was not something else, and so that third time, take action, turn it off, do what I told you to do now, and do it in a way that means that I'm not happy with you, and you need to go through these things to get them done, in order to get my my scowl to turn back into a smile, right? And he knew, right? Oh, it took me too long. And he, again, acknowledged that he heard me, but was so focused that he could not get himself. And I said, well, you need to learn how to do that. So my point is, you can do this with a dog too. You can teach a dog dogs have multi-directional hearing. It's like little radars, right? Their left ear can be focused on the cat that's in the tree or in the bushes, and their right ear could still be focused on you. If you have a German Shepherd in particular, you can see this happening all the time. If you see that both your dog's ears are listening forward and ignoring you, you've not done this. All right. So you can easily read this and see it. And you can see a dog right here. The reason I'm using my right is because most of my dogs heel on the left. So you can see this if you just watch your dogs this weekend, that if your dog is not really attuned to you, that their ears are going to be facing forward like this, though, and kind of ignoring you, right? They should be listening to your feet, listening to the chain that's on their collar, listening to the leash movements, listening to your breathing, because when you begin to talk, you breathe in first before you begin to talk, so you can get some air, so it'll make the words come out, right? The dog will listen to that, right? You'll see their ear flicker back and forth, and they should be doing this, kind of paying attention to you, and then staying forward. All right. The left one could be staying forward. And you're going to understand that your dog actually has an ear on you and paying attention to you. And you have a piece of your dog's brain. Super, super important to those of you that have dogs that are aggressive. Now, you may have a dog that's totally obedient and is able to stay with you and that kind of stuff. Is that critical for that dog? No. Because that dog for whatever reason, seems to be fairly obedient. They can do it and kind of pay attention to you, kind of not pay attention. Maybe have one eye on you. Dogs can almost see their tail. I mean, their vision, the way their eyes are set, they can see quite a fairly big space. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for. They can see fairly well in their peripheral vision. And so they can pick up either with their ear or your eyes that you begin to move right or slow down or whatever it is. And so you're going to see those dogs just simply don't need all of this. And it's not as critical, because I get people all the time, well, I love my dog and he can, he doesn't do that. All right, he doesn't do that. So it's not as important for you to make sure that your dog is keeping his mind on you, right? You have children, right, that you're going to have to watch more closely, because they have a tendency to get into a little bit of trouble, right? You have some children that just need for you to be more attention on them because that's just who they are. They're just different, right? And there are some dogs that are just like that, that are just, they don't, you say something, they turn around, they come back to you, right? They just always seem to have their mind on you. But there's other dogs who have huge aggression problems, they have huge problems that your job is to make sure that they're paying attention to you. And that is critical. All right. So what it is you're teaching your dog could be causing you bad behavior. That is my talk for you. I know I kind of, and again, there's nothing I'm going to be, I forgot who it was that said, I take a long time to get to my point. Well, that's just who I am. So I think there's nothing I can do to change that right now. I need somebody to teach me something that will fix that behavior. But that's just who I am. I can go on little tangents and stories about my kids and stories about police officers, but I'm hoping that they help illustrate the point of this particular video. All right. So don't forget, we have the 2-day seminar coming up for our human dog transformation system. Look for the graphic. It should be pinned to the top. I'm pretty sure it's either pinned to the top. If not, I will have to pin it to the top. There's a limited time on the early bird sign up. If you wait till after, then it'll be twice the price. Right now it's half price if you sign up early. All right. And there you go. And those of you that are in the HDT program, make sure to go to the private group, watch that video that I just put up there live. It's the replay is up there, and watch the video. You're going to have to watch it 3 or 4 times, probably. Take as much information as you can from watching that video, write it down, put it in the comments, and do whatever you need to do, because we're going to be kind of going through it on another day on Sunday at 2 o'clock. All right. And going through all that. All right. That is it. All right, Mo, you guys were pretty silent today. Was it just that good you were listening? or not? I see that there's people watching, but then I see some emotions, some reactions. Good. Hey, Chris Brown, Tim, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, are you back? Another Michelle and Lucas. Nice to see you. Nice to see you guys. So that's who's commented so far. Let's see who's. I like this now. You can see all these other things that you couldn't see before. Very, very cool. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you at the next one. All right. Take care. Bye.